You know when you're casually browsing the web and you find a deal that's too good to be true? Well, this is the one. I found a Dell XPS 9310 2-in-1 for only £150. For less than one of these trash tops, this 2-in-1 with an i7 11th gen, 16GB of RAM and a complete aluminium construction could be one of the greatest deals I've ever encountered. Surely there has to be something wrong with it? Anyways, I bought it as I knew it was too good to pass, but will I regret my decision? Well, let's find out. The XPS line of Dell notebooks are known to be quite solid for their robust build quality and performance. You know, what you want in a laptop. The XPS 9310 2-in-1, all full name and scheme aside, came with brilliant 16x10 1200p or 4K touchscreen displays, 11th gen i7s and up to 32GB of RAM. Soldered. They started off at the upper thousands, so getting a hold of one of these in 2021 was like the equivalent of buying AirPod Maxes. You know, you want one, but do you really need it? Anyways, the one we have here didn't cost that much. For as little as £150 on eBay, this cheap yet still modern laptop caught my eye, as from my lengthy research, these can sell for more than double than what I paid for. Crazy how the value of these exemplary, premium laptops depreciate over the years, essentially a 90% drop from its original MSRP within 4 years. Enough of me rambling, let's take a look, shall we? Alright, here we have the laptop in question. Yep, that's all it is. For some reason, the person who sent it to me decided to send it in a padded envelope. And as you can see, it has not really survived shipping. So, I don't know why anyone would send a laptop worth upwards of £400–500 in a padded envelope, but you know what? I digress. Let's open this up and see if it survives shipping. Can't believe it, man. Yep, this is how they sent it in. And honestly, it's actually held up quite well, I'll be honest. That dent was there in the original listing, so I'm not too fussed about that. Let's just keep that aside. And yep, that's pretty much it. There's the unboxing done. Alright, let's have a look at this and see what it's all about. I'll be honest, this probably doesn't even turn on, but hey, stranger things have happened in life. So let's boot it up and see what it's all about. Alright, let's open it up. And okay, it apparently turns on. Look at that. I'm actually quite shocked, to be honest. Will it go into the setup page or will it just go into Windows straight away? Who knows? Let's see. Okay, so we're into the setup page. Would you look at that? I'm actually lost for words, to be honest. I don't know how this thing survived shipping. I mean, let me bring the packaging back. This was the packaging, okay? It came in this. I can literally crunch it up with my bleeding hands. Let's go into the BIOS and see if everything checks out. So let's just shut it down. Okay, slide to shut down your PC. Okay, so we can confirm the touchscreen does in fact work. It is a bit grimy, to be fair, so we'll need to clean that afterwards. Okay. Alright, so yeah, as we can see here, we're working with a 512GB NVMe SSD. And if we go into the BIOS setup, okay, so yes, we do in fact have an XPS 13 9310 2-in-1. 2-in-1, not just a normal 9310, which makes this even more enticing. Ownership date 11/22/21, so this has been around for give or take around 3.5 years, 3 and a bit. Battery health at 90%, and the health is supposedly excellent. Okay, that's good. Okay, now let's look at the specs real quick. Okay, so the CPU is an i7 1165G7, 4 cores, 8 threads. Okay, that's all good. And of course, we're working with 16GB of DDR4X memory. And yes, we do have an FHD 13.4-inch display with a native resolution of 1920 by 1200. So, by the looks of it, everything checks out. All right, let's go into setup and set this bad boy up and see what it's like in Windows 11. Laptop jargon and mild crash out aside, I'm honestly lost for words on how this XPS survived shipping. Sometimes miracles do in fact happen. A round of applause to Royal Mail. Alright, that's enough. Let's skip through this turd of a setup process, i.e. bypassing it, and explore what this XPS has in store. Into Windows 11, and boy does that screen look good. Looks like all the necessary drivers were installed. Since the XPS didn't come with a stylus, I used the ThinkPad one, and to my surprise it actually worked. I'm guessing the touchscreen also uses Wacom software, which is great to see. Battery health was surprisingly good, around 99%, which I'm quite skeptical about, but nonetheless the XPS held up quite well, lasting around a couple of hours of constant use. Everything looked to be fully functional, so let's turn it around and take off the back. But alas, that's not what happened. As I was undoing all of the screws, one of them were stripped beyond saving, which essentially meant I was barred from opening this up. I tried different bits, a few solutions online, and even a screw extractor kit, but to no avail. I tried this for around 45 minutes give or take, so by the end of it, I was like, was this even worth it? That's it, I'm done. I'm done. The SSD and RAM are both soldered onto the board, and it's quite evident the previous owner did their own botched disassembly, so I left it as is. For reference, this is what the internals look like. I just hope the thermals are okay. With that small failure out of the way, let's give the XPS a good clean, as it's always great to remove traces of another human off your laptop. With some eucalyptus spray and a microfiber cloth, the filth ceased to exist. Nice, we can properly use this now. What's it like? Well, first, since it's the 2-in-1, it can go from tablet to laptop. The hinges feel pretty good, so no complaints from me. The weight of this thing is pretty mad. For it to be all aluminium, it weighs only 1.3 kilograms or 2.87 pounds for you imperial folk. A pretty solid yet discreet laptop. First thing first is to test the fingerprint and IR sensor, which both work flawlessly. Impressive engineering to be able to fit an IR sensor with bezels this thin. Since there's only a couple of ports, let's make sure they're functional. Plug in an external SSD, both Thunderbolt 3 ports recognize the drive as well as the included SD card slot. How nice of them. Using the laptop as normal feels great with the help of the fast 16GB of RAM. There were essentially no slowdowns. Well, you'd expect that considering it's still a pretty modern laptop. And of course the keyboard. Let the video do the talking. Quite possibly one of the best laptop keyboards I've ever used. Damn, it's so good. Keys are quite shallow but have enough actuation force to keep you content. They're quite satisfying to type on with a sort of bump with each key press. Of course, a laptop can't be complete without decent speakers, and honestly, these are great. One of the highlights of the XPS lines are the screens. These are quite special. Colours are rich and vivid. The IPS screen does well with keeping the blacks as dark as possible. Not an OLED, which would have been nice for the price, but still an awesome display. SSD speeds were pretty good as well as the health, but those power on hours look quite extreme. Did I mention you can't upgrade the SSD? What's that all about, Dell? Every day we see a company give into Apple's mindset. Time to benchmark the CPU. On Cinebench R23, the test held up quite well despite temps on the warm side. However, it wasn't screaming at me, which was nice. At the end, we got a score of 50-51, which, to be honest, is way higher than I expected. You can even see the expected score to be around the upper 3000s. Perhaps it's the fast RAM that allowed for an impressive score. In Valley Benchmark on high settings, we again exceeded expectations. I did not expect this to be this good. To put it into context, in the previous video, I tested an X380 Yoga with an 8th gen CPU, and that got 11 FPS on average. This got 48.5. The Xe graphics in these chips did wonders for graphical performance. Keeping me in high spirits, we tested out how it would fare in a bit of Minecraft, and to no one's surprise, it did pretty well, averaging around 160 FPS with no stutters. So let's challenge it a bit. Astral X shaders are quite intensive, and yep, everything is a massive Gaussian blur, but with something a bit more appropriate, we managed to squeeze above 30 FPS, which is quite something. Notice the amount of power the CPU uses, quite impressive. Of course, we can't just keep it at that. In Fortnite, it was quite a stuttery mess, but into the game, it felt quite playable. Granted, we're on the lowest possible settings on performance mode, but honestly, what do you expect with integrated graphics from 2020? This XPS yet again exceeded my expectations. Playing at 900p offered a smoother experience with less stutters. Gaming aside, what's it like to work on the XPS? Given this is its intended purpose, gaming was just a farce. In Photoshop, the XPS held up quite well with that gorgeous screen. It made the perfect production laptop. Utilizing the 2-in-1 function worked well, and it would make a pretty awesome drawing tablet if you can source out a stylus. Honestly, this is what I'd use it for, but what about video editing? In Premiere Pro, again, same story with the XPS doing remarkably well. Multiple layers, effects, and rendering a 1-minute 1080p video was light work for the XPS. A perfect combination of both practicality and performance. So what do we make of this XPS 2-in-1? Well, first, for the price, I'm simply mind blown. For £150, we managed to find a gem, and I'm fully convinced this can be used for years to come. What a steal. I'm just glad it survived shipping, cause what was that? Anyways, we'll leave it on a positive note. What do you think about the XPS 9310 2-in-1? Leave your thoughts down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for future notifications. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, why not check out another? That's all from me, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.